नमस्सर्वेभ्यः। अष्टाध्यायी परिचयः इत्यस्य अद्य सप्तमः पाठः। अस्मिन् वर्गे आभ्यन्तरप्रयत्नम् अनुसृत्य वर्णविभागाः कथं कृताः सन्ति इत्यस्य अध्ययनं कुर्मः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायम् अधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। अस्माकं वर्गस्य प्रयोजनद्वयम् आदौ स्मारयामि। अष्टाध्याय्याः आहत्य 400 सूत्राणां व्याख्यासहितम् उदाहरणसहितं च अध्ययनं, तथा च अष्टाध्याय्याः प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य कण्ठस्थीकरणम्। इदानीम् अस्माकं वर्गात् पूर्वम्, इत्युक्ते विषयस्य अध्ययनात् प्राक्, एकं संशयम् अस्माकं गणे मया बहुभिः जनैः एकः संशयः पृष्टः आसीत्। तस्य निराकरणम् आदौ करोमि। So there was a question in our group about avagraha chinnam. Some people seem to be confused about what exactly this avagraha chinna is, when it should be used, and so on. So tasmin vishaye adau kinchit janimah. Sarvapratamam tu, the first very important point to understand is avagraha chinna is not a letter like anuswara or visarga. अवग्रह चिन्हम इति पृथक् वर्णः नास्ति। अवग्रह चिन्हम केवलं लेखन समये प्रयुक्तं चिन्हम, like a punctuation mark, a full stop, comma, exclamation, like that you use avagrah chinna. In fact, avagrah chinna is not even like the chandra bindu. It does not cause any difference in the pronunciation. अवग्रह चिन्हस्य प्रयोगेण उच्चारणे भेदः न जायते. So you can write the word vanesmin with an avagraha chinna or without an avagraha chinna, and the pronunciation will be identical. This also means avagraha chinnasya lekhanam sampurna rupena lekhakasya ichham anusarati. If you want, you can write an avagraha chinna, so vane followed by avagraha chinna followed by smin, or you can just write a single word. Both are acceptable and there is nothing right or wrong. Avagraha chinna is not a grammatical entity, because grammar is all about speaking and hearing, not about writing specifically. So this has nothing to do with grammar. It's a matter of script. Now, having said that, संस्कृत लेखने अवग्रह चिह्नस्य प्रयोगः कुत्र कुत्र भवति इति चेत्, there are two fundamental places where you commonly see an avagraha chinna used. The first one, which many of you would have encountered in one of the recent homeworks, Vedavakyanam Padapathaha. So when the individual words are to be broken down, Padapathe, Samasta Pada Lekhana Samaye, when a Samasta Pada has to be indicated. See, if it is a Sandhi, you can easily break it down. But if it is a Samasta Pada, you cannot break it down unless you add separate vibhaktis to it. So Sita Patihi cannot be broken down without adding an additional vibhakti on Sita and Pati. If you do that, it will be Sita Yaha Patihi. But then that's different words. Just like the way you can break down ityapi very easily as iti plus api, you cannot break it down for the samasa. And therefore, samasta padalekhane padadvayam asti परंतु समासेन एकत्रीकृतं वर्तते इति पृथक् दर्शयितुम् अवग्रह चिह्नस्य वेदवाक्यानां पदपाठे उपयोगः भवति. So purah, then there will be an avagraha chinna, and hitam. Basically, agnimile purohitam, that would be broken down. So puraha is one word, hitam is another word. A samasa has happened, therefore an avagraha chinna is shown over here. Similarly, ratna and dhatamam. So ratnanam dhatamam. So there is a shashti samasa over there. You cannot break it down, but you want to show that there are two different words over here. So you use an avagraha chinna. सो वेदवाक्यानां पदपाठे समस्तपदलेखनसमये अवग्रहचिह्नस्य प्रयोगः कृतः दृश्यते. And then the second use case, obviously very familiar to all of us, Vishishta Sandhinam Nirdeshartham. So there could be a Savarna Dirgha Sandhi. Sometimes it is indicated with a single Avagraha Chinna. If it is A plus A, in many books you can see a double Avagraha Chinna. Vanesmin, single Avagraha Chinna, Sadhotra, and so on. So again, this is all convention of writing. Whether you use an avagraha chinna, a single avagraha chinna, or double avagraha chinna, it's all matter of writing convention, and there is no grammar rule that dictates this, because grammar is mostly associated with pronunciation, and there is no difference of pronunciation over here. So I think this was one point that was not clear to many people on the group. If there are any questions in this context, you can raise your hand and I'll let you speak. Otherwise, we are going to move to the actual subject matter. So let's move ahead. अस्माकम् अध्ययने वर्णविभागानां चर्चा इदानीं प्रचलन्ती अस्ति. तत्र कालम् अनुसृत्य वर्णविभागाः, स्वरम् अनुसृत्य तथा च स्थानम् अनुसृत्य इत्येतेषाम् अध्ययनम् अस्माभिः पूर्वेषु वर्गेषु कृतम्. So kalam anusritya varna vibhagaha are only for the ach letters, the swaras. The swaram anusritya varna vibhagaha are also for the ach letter. Sthanam anusritya varna vibhagaha are for all the letters. In the same way, prayatnam anusritya varna vibhagaha and anupradanam anusritya varna vibhagaha are for all the letters. So we are going to talk about prayatnam anusritya varna vibhagaha today. And in tomorrow's class, we will talk about Anupradanam Anusrutya Varna Vibhagaha. Anupradanam might be a slightly unfamiliar word. Anupradanam is also commonly known as Bahya Prayatna. Some of you who have read a little bit of grammar might be aware of that word, but you don't need to worry. I will explain what Bahya Prayatnas are and how they matter in tomorrow's class. So adya prarabhamahe. The fourth classification is prayatnam anusrutya varna vibhagaha. Now this prayatnam anusrutya varna vibhagaha are extremely related to the concept of uchcharana sthanam and karanam that we saw in the previous class. Therefore, let's try to spend a few minutes revising what we discussed in the last class. सो वर्णानाम् उच्चारणस्थानस्य विषये तथा च कर्णस्य विषये अस्माभिः अध्ययनं कृतं. तत्र सप्त उच्चारणस्थानानि, करणानि अपि सप्त एव. इत्युक्ते मुख्यानि त्रीणि करणानि, परन्तु तत्र जिह्वाकर्णस्य अग्रे विभाजनं कृतमस्ति, अतः आहत्य सप्त एव करणानि. And then we went over each group of letters and understood what was the uchcharana sthana and what was the karana for that. सो अकुह विसर्जनीयानां कण्ठः अवर्णः इत्युक्ते सर्वेपि अष्टादश भेदाः. कवर्गीयवर्णाः, सो क ख ग घ एंड ङ, हकारः एंड विसर्गः, एतेषां सर्वेषाम् उच्चारण समये किं भवति इति चेत् वायोः कण्ठप्रदेशे आघाते जाते तस्मात् ध्वनिः इत्युक्ते वर्णः उत्पद्यते. तस्य वर्णस्य निर्माणे जिह्वामूलस्य करणरूपेण साहाय्यं स्वीक्रियते. Then we moved to Jivhamuliya, that's a single varna like Kakah, Krishnaha. Tasya Uchcharanasthanam Jivhamulam, Karanam api Jivhamulam. Then we have Ichuyashanam Talu. So Sarvepi Ashtadasha I Varnaha, Chavargiyaha, Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja and Ya. Ya Varnaha ityukte Yakaraha tatha cha Anunasika Yakaraha. And sh ityetesham sarvesham talu iti uchcharanasthanam. This place is slightly outside the kantha. That is towards the, if you start walking towards the teeth, the first thing that you reach from the kantha is talu. The karana is jivha madhyam. Then we have ruturashanam murdha. So the uchcharana sthana is murdha for the 18 rukaras. For the ta vargiya, so ta, tha, da, dha, na, repha and shakara. The karana is jivhopagram, so the area of the tongue before the tip and the bottom part. So the tongue twists and the bottom part of the tongue touches the murdha, specifically for the ta vargiya letters. So jivhagra adhaha. Then we have little asanam dantaha. So lu varna, only 12 varieties are there because lakarasya dirghaha navartate. Ta vargiyaha, ta tha da dha na. La varnaha, so that's the la and the anunasika la, and then sakaraha. Etesham uchcharana sthanam dantaha. मुख्य रूपेण ऊर्ध्व दंत पंक्ति परंतु सामान्य रूपेण दंताः इति उच्यते and dantaha over here refers to danta moola pradeshaha and the karanam is jivhagram, the tip of the tongue. Upupadmanyanam oshtau, so the uchcharana and the karana is both oshtau, and then for anuswara similarly it's nasika. Then we have varnas for which there is a combined uchcharana sthana. So edaitoho kanthatalu, odautoho kanthostham, vakarasya dantostham, and yamaganananam nasika cha. So we have seen all these rules for A and I, that is 12 ekaras and 12 ikaras. We have kantha plus talu. For kantha, the karana will be jivha moolam. For talu, it will be jivha madhyam. So you basically map. Similarly, for O and Au, jivha moolam and oshtau. For Va varna, dantaha and oshtau. So dantaha will correspond to jivhagram and oshtau. And for the varga panchamas, we have the corresponding mukhasthitam sthanam and we have nasika. So the corresponding karana will also come and the nasika will also come. Now, in all this discussion till the previous class, I was using or I was slightly lenient in using the terminologies, and I used the words dhvanihi and varnaha interchangeably. Even right now, 2 minutes ago, when I mentioned ka iti dhvanihi utpadyate is what I said. So in general, it is okay to use these words interchangeably, but specifically for today's class and tomorrow's class, we want to very clearly distinguish between these two terms, dhvanihi and varnaha, because the whole concept of abhyantara prayatna that we are going to talk today and the bahya prayatna that we are going to talk tomorrow, the whole concept depends on this fundamental difference between dhvanihi and varnaha. So let us pay a little bit close attention to this. What is dhvanihi? Dhvanihi in simple language is sound. So nadaha, ravaha, swanaha, ghoshaha is basically an indistinguishable sound. And where is it generated? It is generated in the region of vocal cords, typically called tantri or swarayantram. So when the air comes up from the chest region, the first thing that happens is that the air hits this tantris. There are two of them, vocal cords. So it hits this tantris, and it is this place where some amount of sound, some kind of indistinguishable sound. By indistinguishable, I mean you cannot distinguish it as k, kh, t, th, and so on. An indistinguishable sound, raw sound, is generated. This is the dhvani utpatti sthanam, and it is basically the vocal cords, tantriyau. By the way, one side note, tantriyau iti dvivachanam atra maya prayuktam. The pratipadikam over here is tantri, dirgha ikaranta. The prathama ekvachanam is tantrihi. Like the word Lakshmi, the Prathama Ekvachana does not undergo a Visarga Lopa. So, for example, you know it is Nadi Nadyau Nadyaha, but when it comes to Lakshmi, it is Lakshmihi Lakshmiyau Lakshmiyaha. Similarly, when it comes to Tantri, it is Tantrihi Tantriyau Tantriyaha. So, just a side note on how the word runs. Anyway, coming back to the topic. So this is the place, the Tantri region, where the dhvani, an indistinguishable sound, is heard. Then the air moves up along with that sound and this air hits one of those kantha, talu, and so on, and that is the place where a letter, a varna, is generated. So even in the previous class and ever we have been saying varnotpatti sthanani, not dhvanyutpatti sthanani. Dhvani is already generated in the tantri region. It moves up and then it gets distinguished. It gets articulated as k or ch or t and so on. So these are all kantha, talu, murdha and so on are varnotpatti sthanani. So what is the varna? A, K, Ch, T, T, P इत्यादि विशिष्टः ध्वनिः लेटर इति वर्णः अस्य उत्पत्तिस्थानं कण्ठ इत्यादिकम् अस्ति. सो वायुः यदा उरः प्रदेशात् उपरि प्रवहति तदा तन्त्री प्रदेशे इत्युक्ते स्वरयन्त्र प्रदेशे वायोः प्रथमः आघातः भवति. अनेन आघातेन अस्पष्टध्वनेः निर्माणं भवति. अनेनैव ध्वनिना सह अयं वायुः अग्रे गत्वा कण्ठादिषु स्थानेषु आघातं करोति तदा वर्णस्य निर्माणं भवति. Now, why is this difference important to be understood at this moment? The reason is that whenever this dhvani is produced, there is some kind of striking, some kind of aghata that happens by the vayu in the tantri region. Similarly, when the letters are produced, the same vayu undergoes some kind of aghata in the kantha and so on region. Therefore, ध्वनेः तथा वर्णस्य निर्माण समये भिन्नेषु इन्द्रियेषु, it could be the tantri and others or it could be the kantha and others, भिन्नेषु इन्द्रियेषु वायुना आघातः क्रियते. That आघात is called prayatna. So prayatnah इत्युक्ते वायुना कृतः आघातः. प्रकृष्टः यत्नः इत्युक्ते विशेषरूपेण कृतः यत्नः. विशेषरूपेण इति किमर्थं? ध्वनेः निर्माणार्थं, नो चेत् वायोः निर्माणार्थं कृतः, सोरि, नो चेत् वर्णस्य निर्माणार्थं कृतः यत्नः इति प्रयत्नः. And this prayatna is classified into two groups, abhyantara prayatna and bahya prayatna. This bahya prayatna is also called anupradanam. So that's exactly what the 5 classes we are talking about. The prayatna, 4th class that is in our table is the abhyantara prayatna. And the 5th class, anupradanam, is actually the bahya prayatna. And now you will understand why I have been distinguishing between these two things. This hypothetical line, which basically passes through the larynx region, also called as Kanthamanihi or Kakalaka. So, Kakalakat upari vidyamaneshu Kanthadishu indriyeshu yaha aghataha jayate saha abhyantara prayatnaha abhyantara prayatnena varnanam utpattihi bhavati. And similarly, काकलकात् अधः विद्यमानेषु तंत्रि इत्यादिषु इन्द्रियेषु यः आघातः जायते सः बाह्यप्रयत्नः. बाह्यप्रयत्नेन ध्वनिः उत्पद्यते. So understand this precise difference. Abhyantara prayatna is above the kakalaka region, and that prayatna is responsible for ka, cha, ta, ta, and so on distinguished sounds. The vayu hits kantha, talu, murdha, and so on. That particular hitting, aghata, is abhyantara prayatna. And the vayu hitting or passing through the tantri region is the bahya prayatna. The word abhyantara in Sanskrita means internal. Bahya means external. Now, what is this internal and external? It has two meanings. First, look at the mouth cavity. The prayatna that sits inside the mouth cavity is internal. The prayatna that sits outside the mouth cavity, outside doesn't mean in the open air, outside means before entering the mouth cavity. So this tantri region is outside the mouth cavity. So the effort that sits outside the mouth cavity is the bahya prayatna. So that is one way to look at it. The second way is, if you consider varnas, then dhvani is an external entity. It is dhvani which is then converted to varna. So a prayatna that generates an external entity called dhvani is bahya prayatna. The prayatna that generates an internal entity called varna, internal because that's the varna that you're talking about. So it's the internal entity called varna, that's bahya, that's abhyantara prayatna, external entity called dhvani, that's bahya prayatna. So you can look at it in both ways. Typically, Shastras will look at it as mukhasya antaha and mukhad bahihi. So outside the mouth and inside the mouth. So abhyantara prayatna ityukte आस्ये भवः मुखे भवः प्रयत्नः आभ्यन्तर प्रयत्नः मुखात् बहिः यः विद्यते सः बाह्य प्रयत्नः. Any questions so far? Today we don't have much material to cover, so I can take luxury of stopping in between and checking if you have questions. So essentially in today's class, what we are going to learn is only this abhyantara prayatna, which means the Vayu has crossed the Kakalaka region, it has come upwards, there is already an indistinguishable dhvani along with that Vayu, and now the Vayu is hitting the corresponding organs like Kantha, Talu, Murdha and so on, and this action of hitting happens with help of the karana. If the karana is not there, hitting cannot happen. So with help of karana, which is jivha moolam, jivha madhyam, jivha upagram, jivha agra adha, jivhagra adha, jivhagram oshtau nasika. And that's exactly how these abhyantara prayatnas are classified. Vayoho aghat samaye mukhasthitam uchcharana sthanam. So Nasika is also there, but Nasika is out of the picture. When it comes to the Abhyantara Prayatna, as you can see on the previous diagram, all that we are talking about is Abhyantara, means inside the mouth. And Bahya means outside, but before entering mouth. So Nasika, na idhar ka, na udhar ka. Not here, not there. So you ignore that. Only Abhyantara Prayatna and Bahya Prayatna. Therefore, only the organs inside the mouth and the organs before entering the mouth. So tantri and related organs are to be considered. So we keep Nasika completely out of discussion in today's class and tomorrow's class, where we are discussing about prayatnas. Therefore, Vayoho Aghata Samaye Mukhasthitam Uchcharana Sthanam Tatha Chakaranam Etayoho Dvayoho Madhye Kiyan Antaralaha Vartate. How much is the space, empty space between that organ and the karana, the jivhagram, jivhamulam and so on. Based on that, varnanam pancha vibhagaha kritaha santi. So we have 5 cases. Basically, the distance increases from 0 to maximum and it's being divided into 5 parts and 5 groups are being created. So karanam tatha sthanam sampurna rupena sprishataha. So if jivha, for example, is the karana, then whichever is that part, jivha moolam, jivha madhyam, jivha upagram and so on, that will actually go and touch the corresponding sthana. So for example, pronounce ta, tha, da, dha, na. It's simplest to understand. That's why I'm using that example. The tongue will specifically touch the teeth. So tongue, the jivhagram is the karanam and the dantaha, teeth, is the sthanam. So karanam tatha sthanam sampurna rupena sprushataha. That is called sprushta prayatna. Sprusha means to touch. सो स्पृष्ट प्रयत्न. करणं तथा स्थानं किंचित स्पृशतः, that is ईषत् स्पृष्ट. So try l, for example. When you pronounce l, the tongue does not touch the teeth in that direct fashion in which the t, th, the, dh uchcharana will require. But in case of la, the tongue will still touch the teeth, the base of the teeth, for a small amount of time as compared to the ta, tha, da, dha, na. So karanam tatha sthanam kinchit sprushataha. So that is ishat sprushtaha. Ishat means little, kinchit. So kinchit sprushataha. So ishat sprushtaha. So a small part will touch, or it will touch for a small amount of time as compared to sprushta. So understand, these are all gradations. We have to go from full touching to full gap. And then these are basically divided into 5 groups. So that's sprushta, isha sprushta. The third is called samvruta. The technical meaning of the word samvruta, the dictionary meaning is closed or mostly closed. सो कर्णम तथा स्थानम एतयोः मध्ये अतिन्यूनः अंतरालः वर्तते. So for the practical purposes they are not touching. There is, if you actually take a microscope and see, there will be a small antarala, small space over there, but as basically it's as if they are touching. So tau sprushataha ityeva bhasate. See how beautiful and detailed analysis is done in the Shastras. So, samvrutaha karanam tatha sthanam etayoho madhye atinyunaha antaralaha vartate. Then we go to Ishad Vivruta, and the last is Vivruta. Vivruta is, as you can guess, opposite of Samvruta. Samvruta means closed, Vivruta means open. Vivara means a hole. So it's open. So Ishad means kinchit. So little open. So see the gradations. Sprusha means completely touching. Ishat Sprusha means slightly touching. Samvruta means almost touching with a little gap. And now we are going away. So Ishad Vivrutam Karanam Tatha Sthanam Etayoho Madhye Laghu Antaralaha Vartate. Try pronouncing sa. When you pronounce sa, the tongue will not touch your teeth. There will be a minor antaral, a small space between the tongue and the sthanam. Now understand, in general, the size of the mouth is what, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, 5 centimeter. So when we say small, we have to actually see in millimeters and smaller units. So all this is relative to each other. So Ishad Vivrutaha Karanam Tatha Sthanam Etayoho Madhye Laghu Antaralaha Vartate. And finally Vivruta, the maximum possible space, Karanam Tatha Sthanam एतयोः मध्ये बृहत् अंतरालः वर्तते. So that is the reason even in the previous class and today's class I spent so much time in emphasizing the importance of karana. Unless you understand karana properly, you cannot understand these 5 classes without fail. And another thing, in many grammar books, the order is somewhat changed only to confuse people. So most of the books, and we are going to see how Siddhanta Kaumudi, we have that brown paper where we have to memorize a small set of sentences. So there in general in the grammar books, the ordering is Sprushta, Ishat, Sprushta, Ishad, Vivruta, Vivruta, Samvruta. So they unnecessarily take Samruta and put it at the end. In my opinion, that's thoroughly confusing. This is a very well-defined order which starts from 0 gap and increases all the way to the maximum gap. So remember it in this particular order: Sprushta, Ishat Sprushta, Samruta, Ishad Vivruta, and Vivruta. Now let's understand each of them in details. Just 5 slides we have for 5 different classes. And I have explained most of the stuff already. So we'll just read the slides and you should be able to understand. So yasya varnasya uchcharana samaye karanam tatha uchcharana sthanam sampurna rupena sprushataha saha varnaha sprushtaha. Another name is sparshaha namna jnayate. So sparsha is a more popular name in the grammar books, but sprushta is also an acceptable name. Sprushtaha or sparshaha namna jnayate. अस्य वर्णस्य उच्चारण समये क्रियमाणः प्रयत्नः स्पृष्टः प्रयत्नः. So we have two namings. There is a naming system for the prayatna, and then there is a naming system for the varnas. You can use the same word. So you can say sprushtaha prayatnaha, sprushtaha varnaha. That is acceptable. But then sparsha is also another word. Antastha is a word. Ushmana is a word. So these are the words that you will come across on the upcoming slides. So यस्य वर्णस्य उच्चारण समये कर्णं तथा उच्चारण स्थानं संपूर्ण रूपेण स्पृशतः सः स्पृष्टः वर्णः प्रयत्नः स्पृष्टः प्रयत्नः. कः अर्थः? कर्णं तथा स्थानम् एतयोः मध्ये विद्यमानः अंतरालः संपूर्णरूपेण विनश्यति. वायोः गतिः अपि क्षणं यावत् अवरुद्धा भवति. If there is no space for the Vayu to escape, Vayu will be momentarily blocked. So Vayoho gatihi kshanam yavat avaruddha bhavati. Paniniya Shiksha Vruddha Patha describes this sprushta word. Varnanam utpadyamane yada sthana karana prayatnaha parasparam sprushanti sa sprushtata. And which letters have this sprushta prayatna? All the Vargiya letters starting from K to M, their Abhyantara Prayatna is considered Sprushta. So when you pronounce the K series, K, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga, the Jivha Mula is actually touching the Kantha. When you pronounce Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja, Ya, the Jivha Madhya is touching the Talu. For ta tha da dha the jivha upagram and jivha gradha touches the murdha. For ta tha da dha the jivha gram touches the teeth. And for pa pha ba bha ma, the oshtha touches the oshtha. So for pa pha ba bha ma, the karanam itself is oshtha. And as you can see, the two lips touch together. There is no use of tongue while pronouncing pa pha ba bha ma. You can keep tongue separate in the mouth and you can still pronounce pa pha ba bha ma because the karana over there is oshthav and those oshthav are touching each other. So again, sthana karana prayatnaha parasparam sprushanti. So that is the sprushta prayatna, and these letters are called sprushta letters or the sparsha letters. So sprushta karanaha sparshaha. The letters for which the karana is sprushta, which means it touches the corresponding organ, they are the sparshaha. के एते स्पर्शाः कादयः मान्ताः क इत्यादयः अप टिल म इति अन्ताः. सो क इत्यस्मात् आरभ्य म इति यावत् सिद्धान्तकौमुद्याम् इदमेव वाक्यं भिन्नरूपेण लिखितमस्ति. कादयः मावसानाः म avasanaha. So a list in which avasana comes after ma. What is avasana? Nothing else that is coming. So varnanam viramaha avasana samnyakaha asti. So you start reading the matruka patha from ka and stop at ma. Whatever you have spoken are the sparshaha. So it's a convoluted way of saying, but it conveys the same meaning. So kadayaha mavasanaha sparshaha iti sprushta no chet sparsha ityasya vivaranam asti. So now the second one, ishat sprushta, slightly touching. So yasya varanasya uchcharana samaye karanam tatha uchcharana sthanam amshamatrena sprushataha. So still the touching action is there. I mentioned la, try pronouncing la, there will be a touching action. So amshamatrena sprushataha saha varnaha ईषत् स्पृष्टः नाम्ना ज्ञायते. अस्य वर्णस्य उच्चारण समये क्रियमाणः प्रयत्नः ईषत् स्पृष्टः प्रयत्नः नाम्ना ज्ञायते. So is the same term which is used for varna as well as for prayatna. Ishat means kinchit. करणं तथा स्थानम् एतयोः मध्ये विद्यमानः अन्तरालः अंशरूपेण किञ्चित् विनश्यति। वायोः गतिः क्षणं यावत् अंशरूपेण अवरुद्धा भवति। वर्णानाम् उत्पद्यमाने यदा स्थानकरणप्रयत्नाः ईषत् स्पृशन्ति, किञ्चित् स्पृशन्ति, सा ईषत् स्पृष्टता। And who are these letters for which there is an ishat sprushta effort? Yaralavaha. Yaralavanam ityukte antasthanam abhyantara prayatnaha ishat sprishtaha svikriyate. So when you pronounce ya, remember ya can be normal as well as anunasika. The only difference is the involvement of nasika, but nasika is out of the picture in today's and tomorrow's class when the prayatnas are being discussed. So both type of yo, when you pronounce them, the jivva madhya almost touches the talu. For r, you can see, try pronouncing r. The jivha upagra and the jivva dha almost touches the murdha. Vibration happens, so partially touching is happening. For l, I just demonstrated a few minutes ago. The teeth and the tongue, the tip of the tongue, there is a partial touching. And for v, dantoshtha. So v, the tongue is involved, the tip of the tongue partially touches the teeth and the lips partially touch each other. So yaralavanam abhyantara prayatnaha ishat sprishtaha iti svikiryate. So we already know they are called antasthaha. The name can be derived using the ishat sprishtata also. So we have actually seen the reason why they are called antasthaha. They are between swaras and vyanjanas. They share the properties of swaras and vyanjanas, so they are called antasthaha. But then the same name can actually be derived using this particular concept also. Swasya swasya uchcharana sthanasya ante tishtanti. See, try pronouncing ta tha da dha na and see where the tongue touches. As against try pronouncing l and see where the tongue touches. The tongue will touch at the end of teeth. For ta tha da dha it's at the tip of the teeth. For l, it's at the end of the teeth. So swasya swasya uchcharana sthanasya ante tishtanti. This is given in Katantra Vyakarana. So multiple ways of deriving the same word. Which is correct, which is wrong, there is no answer. Multiple ways of deriving the meaning. So uchcharana sthanasya ante tishtanti. Some people say sparsha and ushmanam antaha tishtanti. So sparsha is full touching. Ushmanas, as we will see in one of the upcoming slides, there is a gap. So it is neither fully touching nor there is a full gap. So tesham antaha tishtanti te antasthaha. So that's there in the Ruk Pratishakya. And we have already seen the last one, antasthanam laghu uchcharanam swara sadrisham vartate. So they are between the swaras and vyanjanas when it comes to the uchcharana sthana. Therefore, they are called antasthas. So multiple ways of deriving the same word, either using the placement of between swaras and vyanjanas or by considering the abhyantara efforts. So ishat sprushta karanaha antasthaha. The antasthas have the ishat sprushta as the abhyantara prayatna. The third in the list was a samvruta. So we are now going a little far. Samvruta. Yasya varnasya uchcharana samaye karanam tatha uchcharana sthanam एतयोः मध्ये न्यूनः अंतरालः विद्यते इत्युक्ते करणं तथा उच्चारणस्थानम् एतौ स्पृशन्तौ एव भासते almost as if they are touching. सः वर्णः संवृतः नाम्ना ज्ञायते तस्य प्रयत्नः संवृतः प्रयत्नः. So संवृतम् इत्युक्ते आवरणं कृतं. So not fully touching, but there is no sufficient gap for the vayu to pass easily. So kshanam yavat vayoho gatihi avaruddha bhavati. वर्णानाम् उत्पद्यमाने यदा स्थानकरण प्रयत्नाः सामीप्येन स्पृशन्ति. So understand this wording. Samipyena sprishanti means they are not actually touching, but they are samipa, and appear as if they are touching. So samipyena sprishanti means samipe tishtanti, sprishanti ityeva bhasate. So samipyena sprishanti, sa sprishtata. And now which letter has the samvruta prayatna? This is where an interesting discussion, some surprise comes up. The only letter which has a samvruta abhyantara prayatna is rasva avarna, which means the six bhedas, udatta, anudatta, swarita and anunasika, ananunasika of rasva avarna. केवलं ह्रस्व अवर्णस्य आभ्यंतर प्रयत्नः संवृतः अस्ति. Means what? When the ह्रस्व akara is spoken, the karana, which is the jivha moolam, and the organ, the sthanam, which is the kantha, because apoha visarjaniyanam kantha. So kantha and the jivha moolam, tayoho madhye nyunaha antaralaha vartate. So you cannot now actually touch and see this, but you have to believe what the Shastra says. So kevalam hrasva avarnasya eva abhyantara prayatnaha samvrutaha asti. Samvrutastu akaraha. So that's what's written in the Paniniya Shiksha Vruddha Patha. Avaranasya, the Dirgha version, or the Pluta version, typing mistake over here, Varanasya, or the Pluta version is not Samvruta. Only the Rasva version is the Samvruta, and that is the reason why an extended pronunciation of A does not become A. You keep on pronouncing it will never sound like A, because A inherently is a different varna which has a different abhyantara prayatna, and A has a different abhyantara prayatna. That's not the case with E or U or U. For all other swaras, their Rasva and Dirgha and Pluta Bhedas have identical abhyantara prayatna. So an extended E will sound like E. Similarly for U, Ru, and so on. But for A, the Rasva Akara, there is, if the gap is less, extended pronunciation is not going to increase the gap. So the Rasva Akara is Samruta, the Dirgha A. That version, as we will see in the upcoming slides, it is Vivruta. The last of the 5 categories, it is Vivruta. So maximum gap is there, and therefore Rasva Avarnasya Dirghakalam Yavaducharanam Avarna Sadrusham na Shruyate. So Rasva Akarasya Kevalam Rasva Avarnasya Abhyantara Prayatnaha Samvritaha Asti. So what we saw, all the Vargya letters is Sprushta, all the Antasthas is Ishat Sprushta, and Rasva Akara is Samvrita. Krishna Kumar Mahoday.
Mahoday, one doubt. So what is the technical, what is the difference between Hakara and Akara? Because Hakara is Akuha Visarjanayanam Kantaha. Now, Abhyantra Prayatna, how it will come? I'm little not clear
I
for
think
me.
that you're jumping a little. It will come on then, because I have neither discussed Hakara, I have nor discussed Akara, right? So both of them will come on the
We
next.
discussed, no?
Where we discussed?
Vyanjana Prashta.
Only Vargiya. Only Vargiya.
Only Vargiya. Okay.
Tuma.
Okay.
So Sha, Sah are not yet discussed. Right?
Sorry.
No,
sorry.
that's sorry. It's important to get these things clarified. So understand, we have discussed the 25, the central ones, and Yaralav. What is remaining? Sha, Sah are remaining, and except for Akara, all swaras are remaining. So now let's go to the fourth Bheda, Ishad Vivruta. So the gap is now even more increased. Ishad Vivruta. Yasya Varnasya Uchcharana Samaye Karanam Tatha Uchcharana Sthanam Etayoho Madhye Laghu Antaralaha Vartate. Earlier it was Nyunaha Eva Antaralaha. Now we are actually accepting that there is a space. So Laghu Antaralaha Vartate Saha Ishad Vivruta. And then the prayatna is ishad vivruta prayatna. And who are these? These are the Ushma letters. Sh, sh, s, h. Try pronouncing sh. It's very clear. Sh is murdha. Try pronouncing sh. You can clearly see the tongue never touches the murdha. There is a space and air rushes through that space when you speak sh. I mean, for all other letters also it will happen, but for some letters it is more obvious to observe than for others. So similarly, s, technically the teeth do not touch the tongue. There is a space and the air rushes through that space. सो श इत्यस्य उच्चारणसमये जिह्वा मध्यम तथा तालु एतयोः मध्ये लघु अन्तरालः अस्ति। श इत्यस्य उच्चारणसमये मूर्धा तथा जिह्वा उपाग्रम इत्येतयोः मध्ये अन्तरालः अस्ति। सेम फॉर स एंड ह। एतेषां प्रयत्नः ईषद् विवृतः अस्ति। These are called ऊष्माणः for the same reason that the air rushes out. So Ishad Vivruta Karanaha Ushmanaha. Ishad Vivruta is this fourth line. Sh, sh, sa, ha. Fourth line means first line is Swaras, second line is Vargiya Vyanjanas, third line is Yaralava, and this fourth line, sh, sh, sa, ha. That's the Ishad Vivrutas. Ishad means Kinchit, Vivruta means Udghatitam. The Karana स्थानस्य अपेक्षया किंचिद दूरे वर्तते। तयोः मध्ये विद्यमानः वायुप्रवाहमार्गः किंचित् उद्घाटितः वर्तते। अस्माद् किंचित् उद्घाटितात् अवकाशात् वायुः घर्षणं कृत्वा बहिः आगच्छति। It rushes out, and that's why we call it ushmanah. It ushma means it forces out with a kind of a deep breath. So we call this as ushmanah. What are these? Sh, sh, sa, ha. And in the Ruk Pratishakya, the Rigveda Vyakarana, even the Ayogavahas are considered Ushmanaha. The Anuswara is out of question because it is only Nasika, but Visarga, Jivha, Mulya, and Upadmaniya, they are also considered Ushmanaha. In Paniniya Vyakarana, the Ayogavaha, the Abhyantara Prayatna of the Ayogavahas is not discussed at all. Why not discussed? Because understand this point that anything that you discuss in the Paniniya Vyakarana has to be useful when it comes to the Ashtadhyayi Sutra Patha and when it comes to the Prakriti Pratyaya Vibhaga and Prakriti Pratyaya Yojanam for deriving words. So everything that we are discussing in last few classes and today is going to tie together. In that whole process, you just never need to know the Abhyantara Prayatnas of the Ayogavahas in Paniniya Vyakarana in Laukika Sanskritam. Therefore, there is no reason to spend energy on defining or identifying or investigating the Abhyantara Prayatnas of Ayogavahas. But if you want to anyway do some investigation and find it out, then Ruk Pratishakya will tell us that they are also classified as Ushmanaha. So this is the line from the Ruk Pratishakya. Vyanjananam adyaha sparshaha. So now this is summary. Vyanjananam adyaha sparshaha. Panchate panchavargaha. So ka, cha, ta, ta, pa, these 25, the initial group in the Vyanjanas is the sparshas. Chatasraha antaha antasthaha tataha. After that, the four yaralava are the antasthas. Uttare ashtaha. Ityukte, the 8 after that are ushmanaha. Ashtasankhakaha. Ashtaha is not ashtan ityasya bahuvachanam. Ashtasankhyankaha iti ashayaha. Uttare ashtaha ushmanaha. So the remaining 8, which is shasha saha, and the 4 ayogavahas are the ushmas. So that is ishad vibruta. So we have covered all the Vyanjanas. The 25 are Sparshas, the next 4 are Ishad Sprushta and then or Dantastha, and the next 4 are Ishad Vibruta or Ushmana. We have also covered A Rasva Akara, which is a Samruta. Everything else is basically all the Swaras except A Varna, that's Vibruta. So Yasya Varnasya Uchcharana Samaye कर्णं तथा उच्चारणस्थानम् एतयोः मध्ये बृहत् अन्तरालः विद्यते. Bruhat means not meters or kilometers. You have to take relative. As compared to Ishad Vivruta, the Antarala is more. So Bruhat Antaralaha Vidyate, Saha Varnaha, Vivrutaha Namna Jnayate, Asya Varnasya Uchcharana Samaye Kriyamanaha Prayatnaha, Vivrutaha Prayatnaha. So Vivrutam is open, Udghatitam. करणं तथा उच्चारणस्थानम् एतयोः मध्ये विद्यमानः अवकाशः सम्पूर्णरूपेण उद्घाटितः दृश्यते. एतादृशानां वर्णानाम् उच्चारणसमये मुखे वायोः अवरोधः नैव भवति. So if there is enough gap, there is no need to block the air won't get blocked. So वायोः अवरोधः नैव भवति. सो ध्वनौ उत्पद्यमाने यदा स्थानकरणप्रयत्नाः दूरेण स्पृशन्ति सा विवृतता. अगेन ऑब्जर्व द वर्डिंग दूरेण स्पृशन्ति इत्युक्ते what is sprusanti means touching. Now what is durena sprusanti? So you have to understand the meaning in the corresponding angle. Karanam sthanad dure vartate iti eva ashayah. So sprusha doesn't means actual touching. Durena sprushanti ityukte dure vartate iti eva ashayah. And who are the varnas? Rasva a varnam vihaya. So you keep the 6 akaras aside and then remaining 12. So rasva a varnam vihaya sarvesham swaranam. I have written akara but I meant a varna over here. So rasvam a varnam vihaya sarvesham api swaranam abhyantara prayatnaha vivrutaha asti. So Paniniya Shiksha says vivruta karanaha swaraha. This is a general statement. It doesn't include Rasva Akara, but he's saying Vivruta Karanaha Swaraha. And if you see some 3 slides earlier, it will say Samvrutastu Akaraha. So then it's going to change that a little bit later. This is 3.12 where he says Samvrutastu Akaraha. And here in 3.8, he is saying Vivruta Karanaha Swaraha. So he will say Vivruta Karanaha Swaraha and then he'll give an apavada later, Akarastu Samvrutaha. So this way, Rasva Avarnam Vihaya Anye Sarve Api Swaraha Vivruta Karanaha Santi Ityukte Tesham Abhyantara Prayatnaha Vivrutaha Asti. So summary, Vargiya Vyanjanas are Sprushta Prayatna, Antasthas are Ishat Sprushta Prayatna, Rasva Avarna Shat Bhedaha Samvruta Prayatna, Ushmanas, the 8 of them, Ishad Vivruta Prayatna, and Avarnam Vihaya Sarve Piswaraha Vivruta Prayatna. Now, how does all this fit together in the Paniniya Vyakarana? How does it gel together in the Paniniya Vyakarana? So all these comes together and the next 10 minutes are crucial. Please pay attention. All this gels together to create a very, very fundamental term in Paninian grammar called Savarna. Today, one full homework question is on Savarna. So it's one of the most fundamental terms in Paninian grammar called Savarna. There is a sutra in Ashtadhyayi, Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam. I am not teaching the sutra right now. We have not started studying sutras in our course at all yet. I am quoting sutras here and there, but it's just like for your information. Actual teaching of sutras, there is a lot of time. Today is what, 7th class? We are going to learn first sutra of our course in 21st class. So a lot of background has to be covered before we can actually jump to the first sutra. I mean, if you just open Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, on first page there will be Halantyam, but it's a very bad strategy in my opinion. We have to cover lots and lots of basics and then we will jump to our first sutra. There's still 13, 14 more classes for that. So, but I'm just quoting the sutras for you to remember. So now some of you from your homeworks, I realize some of you are probably even more expert in grammar than me. In some cases, lots of sutras are being quoted in some of the homeworks. So for those people, this could be a quick recap or a primer. So Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam iti sutram asti is all the way in the beginning, 9th sutra starting from the top. And what does this sutra say? This sutra gives the definition for the term Savarna And understand this definition very crucial. Take any two letters, say X and Y. Find out the mukhasthitam uchcharana sthanam. Remember, Nasika is out of picture. So mukhasthitam uchcharana sthanam and find out the abhyantara prayatnas. Again, bahya prayatnas, which we will talk tomorrow, are not to be considered for savarna samya, only abhyantara prayatnas. So for the letters X and Y, check their uchcharana sthana and check their abhyantara prayatna. If the uchcharana sthanas are also same, that is the uchcharana sthana of X and uchcharana sthana of Y is same. Similarly, if the abhyantara prayatna is same, which means the abhyantara prayatna of X is same as abhyantara prayatna of Y, if on both these parameters you put a check mark, then the two letters are called savarnas of each other, like friends basically. So savarnas of each other. Understand that savarna is a relationship between two letters. Saying ka is savarna or ta is savarna has no meaning. Savarna is like being friend. If you say X is a friend, the question is whose friend? So like that, if you say X is savarna, whose savarna? So two letters X and Y, mukhasthitam uchcharana sthanam samanam तथा आभ्यंतर प्रयत्न समान. These are called savarnas. Siddhanta Kaumudi has this statement: talvadi sthanam, so talu, kantha, and so on, and abhyantara prayatna ityetad dvayam yasya yena tulyam. The ones that compare, tulyam is equal, yasya varnasya yena varnena sah talvadi sthanam samanam abhyantara prayatna samanah tan mithaha. Mithaha means parasparam. Mithaha savarna samyam syat. And now, which kind of letters are savarnas? Now you recollect what we studied in the previous class and today's class together. So, kidrisha varnaha savarnaha. All the ka series, ka, kha, ga, gha, ng. These five letters are savarnas because all of them have kantha as uchcharana sthana and sprushta as the prayatna, sparsha or sprushta as the prayatna. So these are all sparshas. For nakara, nasika is also an additional uchcharana sthana, but nose is out of question. Mukha sthitam uchcharana sthanam. So all the first row are savarnas. Similarly, the second row will be savarnas. First and second cannot be savarna because ka uchcharana sthana is kantha, cha uchcharana sthana is talu. So first and second cannot be savarna. But all five in the first row are mutual savarnas. All five in the second row are mutual savarnas. Similarly, third row, fourth row, and fifth row, because the rows have the same uchcharana sthana, and all these 25 have this prushta prayatna. So sarve kavargiyaha, chavargiyaha, tavargiyaha, tavargiyaha, and pavargiyaha savarnaha santi. Now come to the swaras. A and A cannot be savarnas because A is vivruta, A is samvruta, and A is vivruta. So A and A will keep aside for now. But E varnasya sarve bhedaha savarnaha, because for E it is vivruta and talu. Similarly for U it is vivruta and oshthav and so on. So keep A varna aside because that samvruta thing is pulling A separate. So E varnasya sarve bhedaha savarnaha, U varnasya, Ru varnasya, and Lu varnasya. Come to yavalas. So ya and anunasika ya, va and anunasika va, la and anunasika la. Obviously, except for nasika, there is no difference. So yavalanam anunasika bhedaha, ananunasika bhedaha cha savarnaha. So understand what kind of letters are savarnas. Individual rows are savarnas of each other, the vargiya vyanjanas. Except for akara, any swara is savarna to itself. So 18 bhedas of E, Hrasva, Dirgha, Pluta, Udatta, Anudatta, everything, Uchcharana sthana will be Talu, Prayatna will be Vivruta, so savarnas. Same for U and so on. Now with this basic definition, there are a few additional rules. So Tulyasa Prayatnam Savarnam is a general rule, but it turns out it doesn't capture all the cases that we want. So again, the word Savarna has been defined by Panini because he wants to use it in Ashtadhyayi at hundreds of places. In fact, as I mentioned, one of the full homework exercise today is on Savarnas. So there is Savarna Dirgha Sandhi, there is Purva Savarna Sandhi, there is Para Savarna Sandhi. So lots of Sandhis themselves are about Savarnas, and outside Sandhis also there are lots of use cases of Savarnas. So understanding what Savarnas are is extremely crucial. We have listed basic cases, but these are not sufficient. So additional rules are being quoted or rules are being developed. So the first rule says, we'll need 10 more minutes today. The first rule says, Rulu Varanayoho Mithaha Savaranyam Vacham. So the rule says that the Ru Varna and the Lu Varna, obviously they are technically not Savarnas because Ru is Murdha and Lu is Dantaha, but still they will be considered savarnas. So Rulu Varanayoho Mithaha means Parasparam Savaranyam Vacham. So understand what is happening. Ru already comes in 18 varieties. Lu comes in 12 varieties. Now all these 18 and all these 12 come together. 30 are all savarnas of each other. Why? Because Panini will require this somewhere in Ashtadhyayi. Whole samnyas or all this effort is being done so as to develop rules of Ashtadhyayi. So Rulu Varnayoho Mithassavaranyam Vacham, even though their Uchcharana Sthana is not same, they will be called Savarnas because Panini wants them, and a rule has been created. Rulu Varnayoho Mithassavaranyam Vacham. So 18 Rus and 12 Lus, a total 30, all Savarnas of each other. The next rule says, Edaitau na savarnau. Observe A varna. A is Kanthatalu and Vivruta. I is also Kanthatalu and Vivruta. So technically A and I should be considered Savarna. Just like the way 18 Bhedas of E are Savarna, similarly for A it's 12 Bhedas, and for I it's also 12 Bhedas because A and I both are Vivruta and Kanthatalu. But A and I are not Savarnas, so there is a rule developed for it. Edaitau na Savarnau. I have made a different color coding. You will learn why at some other point in time. I just wanted to be technically correct, so I used different colors for now. Similarly, Odau tau na Savarnau. Same for O and Au. O is Kantha plus Oshtha and Vivruta. Similarly, Au is Kantha plus Oshtha and Vivruta. So O and Au, just by applying Tulyasa Prayatnam Savarnam, is considered Savarna O and Au. But again, the rule says Odau Tau na Savarnau. So see, three rules. First, Lu and R, they were not Savarnas, but they are brought together. A and I, they were Savarnas, but they are separated out. O and Au, they were Savarnas, but they are separated out. Where I say where Savarnas, it only means by the sutra alone. The final rule is that Ru and Lu are Savarnas, A and I are not Savarnas, O and Au are not Savarnas. And the last rule is very interesting. Observe the for what has happened for the Rasva Akara is that for Rasva Akara, Abhyantara Prayatna is Vivruta, the Samvruta, whereas for all others, the A and the Pluta, the Abhyantara Prayatna is Vivruta, so they were not Savarnas. What Panini does, he says that, understand this point, he says that I agree that Rasva Akara is Samvruta. But for the Ashtadhyayi Sutras alone, let us consider Rasva Akara as Vivruta. So he says, let's make an exception. As such, the entire grammar is all mithya. From the first class itself, we have seen everything runs in the brain of a grammarian. So in our brain, let us assume that Rasvakara is Vivruta. Technically, it is not Vivruta. When you pronounce Rasvakara, the gap is Nunam. So it is Samruta. But for all practical purposes, only for the sutra application, let us consider it Vivruta. So Rasva Akarasya Prakriya Dashayam. Prakriya Dasha means when you are trying to use the rules of Ashtadhyayi for Prakriti Pratyay combination. In that process, let's call it Vivruta. So because of this special rule, now all a and a pluta are all vivruta, and obviously they are all kantha. So now they become savarnas. Thus, after the rule tulyasa prayatnam savarnam and these four exceptions, Ruluvarnayoho mithassavarnyam vacham, edaitau na savarnau, odautau na savarnau, and rasva akarasa prakriyadashayam vivrutatvam, what happens is all varnas become savarnas. Similarly, e, u, ru, lu, and lu together become savarnas. So that single class. A and I are separate classes, O and O are separate classes, and then for Vyanjanas, there is no special cases at all. So all the special rules are for swaras only. Rulu is swara, A, I, O, and O. Everything is for swara. So for Vyanjana, it's already listed. Sarve Kavargiyaha. So first row, similarly second row, third row, fourth row, and so on. So far, so good. Now one last slide and we will stop. This is whatever I'm teaching you right now on this slide is purely for your information. I just want to show you how our tradition is diverse. I'm not going to talk about this later in the course, only for today. What has happened is that in Ashtadhyayi, when the Ashtadhyayi sutras are constructed, Panini made a slightly different classification. For the Varnas, he has assigned Abhyantara Prayatnas slightly differently. How? So he says for Sparshaha, that is the Vargiya Vyanjanas, the Abhyantara Prayatna is Sprushta, no problem with that. For Antasthas, it is Ishat Sprushta, no problem with that. For Rasva Avarna, Samvruta means he accepts it as Samvruta and then does that special rule that for all practical purposes inside the Prakriya it is Vivruta. But he does that rule means what? On the face of it, he accepts that Rasva Avarna is Samvruta. So for the first three lines, there is no goof up made by Panini. When it comes to Ushmanas and all the swaras, Akaram, Vihaya, other swaraha, Panini puts the Vivruta as the Abhyantara Prayatna for both of these. So as far as Panini's Ashtadhyayi is concerned, Sprushta, Ishat Sprushta, Samvruta and Vivruta. Because if Ushmana is also mapped to Vivruta and if Akaram Vihaya everything is mapped to Vivruta, then there is nothing that maps to Ishat Vivruta, so Ishat Vivruta is removed. So as far as Panini is concerned, Paninehe Matena, Swaranam and Ushmanam Abhyantara Prayatnaha Vivrutaha eva asti. Now this is actually very harmful because as soon as you change the Abhyantara Prayatnas, the definition of Savarna will change and some wrong conclusions might start coming. What Panini does is he creates additional sutras. So we have only seen one sutra, Tulyasa Prayatnam Savarnam. Panini will create additional sutras to get rid of those problems. So first he introduces a problem by mapping Ushmana and Akarat together on Vivruta. And then he creates additional sutras to get rid of that problem so that the definition of Savarna matches to what we learned on the previous slide. So definition of Savarna is according to what Panini has said. But in order to come to that definition, because of this goof up, he has to add up additional sutra. So Paninehe matena swaranam ushmanam cha abhyantara prayatna vivruta asti atah anyasya ekasya sutrasya nirmanam tena kriyate. But on the commentary, Mahabhashya, which is a great commentary on Ashtadhyayi, I'm going to discuss this in one of the upcoming classes. In this great commentary called Mahabhashya, Bhashyakara clarifies that there is no need to do this goof up. Let's take 5 Abhyantara Prayatnas and whatever those additional sutras are there, we can just ignore them. So that's what Bhashyakara has accepted, and most of the commentaries will usually accept that. So this is a kind of small deviation in Panini's Ashtadhyayi than what we actually learn. That we learned 5 Abhyantara Prayatnas, which makes our life easy. But Panini creates 4 Abhyantara Prayatnas only. But he still wants to match the Savarna definition to what we learned on the previous slide. So then he has to create additional sutras for that. We are not going to learn those additional sutras in our course. We will learn Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam. And when we will learn Tulyasa Prayatnam Savarnam, we will talk about 5 Abhyantara Prayatnas. So as far as our course is concerned, or even if you go ahead and learn Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi, as far as Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi your course will be concerned, 5 Abhyantara Prayatnas is the only reality. We will not talk about this goof of anywhere again in the course. You do not need to worry about it, but I just wanted to throw some light that this is how the Sutra Patha has been modified by Bhashyakara by saying that Panini says only 4 Abhyantara Prayatnas, but you take 5 and the life will be simplified. So that's all what I wanted to discuss in today's class. Let's read this particular thing. I sincerely encourage everybody. These are small paragraphs. They have to be memorized. There is no option over here. So idam kanthasthikaraniyam yatnaha dvidha abhyantaraha bahyah ch आद्यः panchadha. Adya means the first one, abhyantara. आद्यः panchadha sprushta ishat sprushta vivruta sprushta ishat sprushta ishad vivruta vivruta samvruta bhedat. I usually recite this in one straight line. Let me recite that as well. It's actually easier for you to remember. So let's start. यत्नो द्विधा आभ्यन्तरो बाह्यश्च आद्यः पञ्चधा स्पृष्टे षट्स्पृष्टे विवृत संवृत भेदात् तत्र स्पृष्टं प्रयतनं स्पर्शानाम् ईषत् स्पृष्टम् अन्तःस्थानाम् ईषद् विवृतम् ऊष्मणां विवृतं स्वराणां ह्रस्वस्य अवर्णस्य प्रयोगे संवृतं प्रक्रियादशायां तु विवृतमेव एतत् च सूत्रकारेण ज्ञापितम्. So for the regular prayoga, when you speak, it is samvruta. But for Ashtadhyayi prakriya, it is vivruta, and that has been told by Sutrakara. Etat cha sutrakarena jnapitam. So this is about the yatna, and the next slide is about the special names given to the varnas. So kadayo mavasanaha sparshaha yaralavaha antasthaha shashasaha ushmanaha achah swaraha kah pa pau iti kapabhyam prag ardha visarga sadrushau jivha मूलीय upadhmaniyau aha iti achaha parau anuswara visargau. So these are not directly related to what we learned today, but this is how the paragraph appears in Siddhanta Kaumudi. So you need to memorize this. So 2 small screens you have to memorize. Let's come to the homework. The homework is somewhat easy actually. Sankshepena Uttarata. The first question is very simple, some general answers. In the second question, this is about the word called Savarna. So Kim Nama Parasavarna Sandhihi? Learn. I mean, I am sure all of you know what is a Parasavarna Sandhi. The thing that you have to think right now is why the word Savarna is used in this Sandhi. Kim Nama Purva Savarna Sandhi. So why is the word Savarna used in this Sandhi? Kim Nama Savarna Dirgha Sandhi. Why is the word Savarna used in this Sandhi? And then Ikarat Paraha Samhitayam Asavarnaha. The one that is not a Savarna will be Asavarna. So asavarnaha swaraha vidyate. So if you keep e and do not add a savarna swara but a different swara next to it, what will happen? And ekarat paraha sahitayam savarnaha swaraha. If you keep a and add a savarna swara to it in the samhita, what kind of sandhi will happen? So as I mentioned, the concept of Savarna is extremely important in our course. We are going to revisit maybe some 20 classes later when we actually learn Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam. But today I have given enough background on this. Ratnakar Mahoday.
Namaskar, sir. Do you suggest any book for Panini Siksha first? And secondly, ya and va, there is Anunasika and Anunasika Bhedat. That is Nasika, Anunasika and Ananunasika, they are Savarnas. But ya, va individually are not Savarna Sangikas. No?
Correct. So let me answer your second question first. Ya and Anunasika ya are Savarnas, same for va and la. But ya and va are not Savarnas because ya is Talu and va is Dantoshtha. So they cannot be Savarnas. So that is correct. So that is answer to your second question. And first, you wanted a book on Paniniya Shiksha Vruddha Patha. That's a very good request. I will send a PDF on the group. I'll also link it in the coursework. I actually wanted to, it's a very beautiful and simple book, and I wanted to link it on the website. I have the raw content, but I'm too busy to process it and put it on the website. At some point in time, I'll put it on the website. So there are three of them. We have Paniniya Shiksha, which is the Shlokatmaka Shiksha, which we already have in the website. So if you go to this right menu, there is Paniniya Shiksha over here, which is the Shlokatmaka Shiksha, and we have seen this particular Atma, Buddhya, Sametyarthan, and so on. So you have seen this. But then there is a Sutratmaka Paniniya Shiksha, which comes in two flavors, the Laghu Shiksha or the Laghu Patha and the Vruddha Patha. So I will give you the PDF of both of them, and at some point in near future, I'll also put that on the website. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, we can stop. Tomorrow there will be a class as usual, and we will talk about the last remaining thing, which is the Anupradhanam Anusritya. So the Bahya Prayatnas. Purnima ji.
Namaste Mahodaya. More than a question, it's a request. The Kanthastikaranam part, if you can kind of record and send a clip, it will be easier for us to follow.
What we will do is, there is another Kanthastikaranam tomorrow. So after tomorrow's class, I'll just do one recording for all the 4 Kanthastikaranas and send it to you. Send it on the group. Okay. So by over the weekend, I should be able to send it. I'll also put it on the course portal so that people who are watching offline should be able to use that as well. Anything else? Okay, so Samapayamaha. Today we will have the class at the same time. Tomorrow we'll have class at the same time. We are going to go over the last category, Anupradhanam, and then we will finish the discussion of Varanas and go back to the Vyakarana of Prakriti Pratyaya Vibhaga. अष्टाध्यायी जगन्माता यस्य चित्तात् समुत्थिता वेदानामुपकाराय तस्मै पाणिनये नमः शब्द ब्रह्म समाराध्य कृतवान्यो विलक्षणं सर्वाश्चर्यमिदं शास्त्रं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः येन धौता गिरः पुंसां विमलैः शब्दवारिभिः तमश्चाज्ञानजं भिन्नं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः. धन्यवादः.